to Leitner. Puts it up.
You're listening to the Culture State Podcast.
Get ready. Woo!
Another week on this podcast thing, and we absolutely love it. I'm Chris Lee. As my man Dennis Cox, this is the Culture State Podcast, baby.
That's right. And before we get to some more 336 love today, as we always seem to have here on the Culture State Podcast, make sure you go out there and check out some Papa Murphy's Pizza. Every Tuesday, $10.99 large pizzas at Papa Murphy's. Give them a follow on Instagram and Twitter at Papa Murphy's. Papa Murphy's, change the way you pizza. Chris, more 336 love today, but we're going to go into the hip-hop world. And it's the more I'm learning, Chris, about the hip-hop artists and producers that come from North Carolina, just how much impact across the industry they have, not just in this state, but on a national and global scale.
Absolutely, man. I mean, if you think about it, today we're going to talk to Ski Beatz. He's from Greensboro, but he helped to inspire like generations of people after him from North Carolina. We talk about Little Brother. The original Little Brother, the three of them, two of the three are from the Triad. Mm-hmm. You have Ninth Wonder, who's from Winston-Salem. You have Phonte, who's also from Greensboro. So, I mean, it's very interesting when you start like digging deep and you start looking at some of the things that have happened because of those folks who are from just North Carolina in general. And there's a lot here, man. I mean, I think about our episode with Charles Whitfield a few weeks back. If you haven't listened to it, go back and listen to it. But he also had a lot of history he was dropping about the state of North Carolina. I didn't realize that Jermaine Dupri, who came out with Criss Cross, who came out with the R&B group Escape, who did a lot of who basically helped shape that Atlanta sound, is from Asheville. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about that and all the connections that are just there. It's really cool to see what North Carolina's contributed.
Well, the thing is, you mentioned Ninth Wonder and Ski Beatz, our guest today. If you haven't heard our Ninth Wonder episode, go back and listen to that one too.
Yeah.
But these two guys produced some of the top songs for Jay-Z.
Yeah.
And Beyonce. It's like everyone knows who Jay-Z is, but you think about some of Jay-Z's early work, like Dead Presidents, that song, and a bunch of other songs on that album. Ski Beatz produced that. It's amazing to think that some of his best work for Jay-Z, or some can still consider his best work, North Carolina guy, backing that whole thing up.
And when you talk about Jay-Z and you think about the golden years of Jay-Z being the actual rapper, you start with Reasonable Doubt, you end with the Black Album. Reasonable Doubt, Ski Beatz. You know what I'm saying? That's what got Jay-Z out there. That's what people first heard when they heard Jay-Z. And then when he did his first retirement, Ninth Wonder was on that album.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting to hear just see how North Carolina kind of helped bookend the golden years of Jay-Z's career. And, of course, we know how influential he's been. So when somebody hears what Jay-Z has done, they want it for themselves. And so it helps create that sound and creates opportunities for other people.
Well, we'll talk about Ski Beatz as well, about how a lot of the West Coast hip hop sound was developed a lot really from a North Carolina base with George Clinton and some of the music he did earlier in his career and the sampling that they did. So really a lot of that West Coast sound as well that you hear with folks like NWA and all them. North Carolina tie or North Carolina influence coming from that too. So it's just the hip hop world, New York, West Coast, out in Southern California. Guess what? North Carolina got a lot of big reason to do with all of that.
Absolutely. And so this is going to be a history lesson when it comes down to hip hop, which is, what we always wanted to do for this show. And, you've heard it on other episodes. This is just another addition to that. So after this message, you're going to hear from Greensboro's own Mr. Ski Beatz right here on the Culture State Podcast. All right. If you ever listen to anything in hip hop, just know that somehow or another, some way, if you dig deep, there's a North Carolina tie in there somewhere. And there's been a lot of North Carolina ties in hip hop. and this is one of them. My man, Ski Beatz from Greensboro, North Carolina. So some more Greensboro representing right here, Dennis.
So much
gotta have
love on this.
Gotta have the 336 love. He's
right.
from North Kakalaki, and he never looks tacky. You know, I had to bring back the old school line. So just to give a quick brief overview, part of the Bizzie Boyz rap group from the 80s. And then, of course, production credits all through the 90s, including what a lot of people know when it comes down to Jay-Z and the Reasonable Doubt album. And then, of course, production from after that, and then just kind of teaching people how to be producers. Mm-hmm. But Ski, I was born in 86, right? And so for me, in 97, I wasn't listening to Jay-Z at the time. Right. So I had to come on it a little bit later. But the way I was introduced to you, I've always heard the name being from Greensboro. But what I was introduced to you was Hot Right, you know, and I heard that on 102 Jams. And so I was a Cash Money fan at the time. And one of the things I loved about Cash Money is that they really were all in New Orleans, and they encompass what New Orleans is about. So I was like, we need that for North Carolina. So when I first heard "This is for my folks, it's been waiting, still no love," you know, and all that, that was really cool for me to hear that. And then I went back, I had to do some homework and then understand like where it came from and things like that. So first of all, thank you for coming on the show. And let's start with that. Like Now City, you know, that was big at that time. And I remember going to Summit Avenue to go get a CD. I had to.
Oh yeah.
So talk about that, just how you kind of help cultivate other people's careers and putting things on as you were, you know, as you had been already in the industry for a while yourself.
Yeah, man. You know, I had Now City happen when I had moved back home from NY. And I was in Greensboro, and you know, actually I was living in Winston, but I was thinking like, yo, you know, we got like all these talented kids out here. We need to kind of, you know, put together some type of label or some type of movement. So, you know, me and my man King, we came up with the name Now City. And Hot Right, he was dating the sister of the girl I was dating at the time. And the girl was telling me, hey, my friend Hot Right, he raps, he's pretty good. You need to check him out. And as soon as I heard him, and as soon as I met him, I knew. I'm like, yo, his personality, he just had that whole vibe. You know what I mean? That whole North Carolina, that whatever it is that we got, he had it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it started from there. You know, once we got Hot Right, then I got introduced to Missy Wreck. Then I got introduced to Crunk, then Little Rise and Kid Smith. And everybody started coming into play. And we just said, yo, let's form the group Now City. It was the label. I said, hey, let's turn it into a group and let's make this thing happen. And that's how we got that thing going.
One of the things I thought was dope from that perspective too was, like I told you, I was a Cash Money fan. So when Juvenile broke off, and then I hear Hot Right on the what is it, the Know You Clap remix?
Yeah.
At the I was like, okay, this is great, having North Carolina being a part of all that. Yep.
That was dope, man. It was crazy because Hot Right, he actually landed a deal with Asylum Records from the Now City, from the, the Right Now single and all that. When they heard him, Leo Combs, he like automatically signed him that day. He got signed. And as soon as he signed, they put him on the road with Juvie. They had him around a bunch of people. Jim Jones, everybody was like, executive producing and, getting his stuff together, man. I wish it would have went further, but he was definitely about to be a force to be reckoned with. You know what I mean?
For sure.
How hard was it back then in those early days of getting your music heard, like getting in front of producers or record labels, or even just getting out on the radio? How hard was it?
Well, for Now City, it was pretty easy because I had already laid down the groundwork from what I was doing, in my earlier career with Jay, Lowe, and everybody, So I had the attention already of pretty much any major, label at the time. But when I got started, that's a whole different story. It was a little,
So let's take it back there. 86, Bizzie Boyz. How tough is that in Greensboro?
Well, you know what? Greensboro was definitely the launching pad. It was tough only because at the time, there was no industry in Greensboro to get your music out there like that. But we had people from 102 Jams to what's the
Power
station?
97? Power 97.
Power 97. What's the station at A&T? I keep forgetting the name of it.
Oh, WNAA.
WNAA, man.
Yeah.
Cherie, bless her soul. She like really helped us, cultivate and get our name out in NC. And once we kind of got on the radio, and once we got, pretty popular in our town, then, obviously New York, they started hearing about what we was doing. And we had this one record, I think it was Hype Time by the Bizzie Boyz. We had that record, and that record actually was getting play in New York, but we didn't know at the time. We in Greensboro doing our thing, but we didn't know New York had got that record and started playing it on BLS and all that. And until we got that call from Red Alert and Mr. Magic and them, they said, hey, can you guys come to New York and do an interview? So we went up to New York, did the interview, and right after that, that's when things started clicking. That's we connected to New York, New York connected to us, and the music industry started taking us serious. I was the first one to move from the group to New York to pursue my career as a rapper, because around that time, I think like around 88, that's when the Bizzie Boyz everybody went their, separate ways. Fanatic was doing his thing. I was doing my thing. Moving Group, they was doing their thing. And Big D, rest his soul, he was doing his thing. But I just made the move to New York and just went for it. You know what I mean?
And it definitely looked like it worked out for sure. I know that, pretty much everybody always asks you about the whole Jay-Z thing, but like but before any of that kind of happened, what were the things that kind of led up to you being able to be in that position to, and I know at the time you probably weren't thinking this is probably going to be a hip hop classic, but what led up to being able to be a part of what's considered a hip hop classic to even be in that position?
Man, when I formed the group Original Flavor, we banged out our demo up in Harlem. I took it to Clark Kent because I had knew Clark Kent from, him coming to New York. Him coming to North Carolina with Dana Dane to perform. And the Bizzie Boyz would always open up for, whoever came into sound at the Coliseum. So we met Clark, and Clark was like, hey, if you're ever in New York, hit me up. And so happened I was in New York. And when I hit him up at the right time, because he had actually just started A&R at Atlantic Records. So, I did the Original Flavor demo, gave it to Clark. He liked it. He signed us. The day I signed, Dame Dash was there. And, Clark was like, hey, this is my man Dame. He loves your music. He want to manage you. And I'm like, all right, let's go. I'm young. I'm naive. Let's go. Let's rock. You know what I'm saying? I'm with it. As long as we can, put these records out and, get some videos and whatever. So, yeah, signed with Dame. And during the whole Original Flavor, thing, Clark was always around. And Clark would always bring different artists to Dame. So one day Clark brought Jay-Z. And Jay-Z was with Jazz Zoe and Source Money. And they came to one of our video shoots. And they started rapping, all of them. And it was all incredible. But when I heard him rap, I tell the story a million times, but when I heard Jay rap, I knew I can't rap no more, but I gotta produce him. You know what I'm saying? I can make these beats. I can never be a better rapper than you, but I can make these beats. So Dame ended up, signing Jay under management. And since Original Flavor had the deal, Jay would come on the road and go with us. So Jay was like, the secret weapon that we would bring out, during the end of the show and let him do his thing. And that's how we came up with the single, Can I Get Open? You know what I mean? Featuring Jay-Z, because he was with us all the time. And, me and Jay, we clicked off top. Jay was in the crib. We was just making music. And then one day we had original doubt, kid. It was crazy. That's
crazy.
But it went from a crazy evolution, because if you remember, Jay-Z was really into fast rapping. He was the, biggity type of dude, but he was in the streets. And it's funny because I didn't know he was in the streets. I thought he was just a rapper. You know what I'm saying? But I found out maybe like 2 years later that, this guy's really out here. He's making moves. You know what I mean? And then somebody got in his ear and said, hey, man, you need to talk about, what you're doing, because it's real. And once he got his pen right and started, writing those vivid stories, it was amazing. And I knew my job as a producer was to actually, create the theme, the soundtrack to that. And so, we locked in and we did that,
So what's that process like in terms of making the beat? does the artist, does the rapper come to you and say, hey, I want something that sounds like this, or this is what I want to say, find a beat that fits it? Or do you create the beat and then how does that collaboration work?
It's a bunch of different ways. I mean, you might have artists that, they might bring a record in and say, yo, can you make something that sound like that? And, you do that. And then you got artists that don't know what they want. So you just play some beats, you know what I mean? And they say, oh, yeah, that's good. That's good. I want to do that. I want to do that. But then you got certain artists, as a producer, you got certain artists that you get close to and you kind of, you get to know them and you get into their life and you start seeing what it's all about. And creating music comes from that. You get inspired by what they're doing. So Jay-Z, Camp Lo, certain artists I work with, I was inspired through what they was doing. You know what I mean? Their lifestyle.
Sure.
You mentioned it earlier, but I was going to ask you, if you ever wanted to try to go for another push for maybe a solo rap career, but you kind of answered it when you said you heard Jay-Z, you didn't want to do that, but you have been helping out other folks who are producers through your stuff in schools here in North Carolina, also your challenges that you also do. But I want to know a little bit more about the some of the things that you do in schools down here. Like, do you still have your programs that go on, and where are they located, and how are you trying to help cultivate the next generation of producers?
Well, yeah, we still have the dojo curriculum. It's in Caswell County right now. Okay. We're teaching like 9th, 10th, 11th graders. And that's pretty cool. I created the curriculum. It's on all the desktops in the schools in Caswell County, and cats are just learning how to, make beats using Ableton Live, and that's already running. It's already on the thing. I don't have to be there personally to show them. But at the same time, I do the dojo class as well. I'll come to your studio live, maybe invite 15, 20 students, and just, we'll just shoot the back and forth. I'll see where they at. Creatively, I'll show them some things. Sometimes they show me some things, you know what I mean? And we just build like that.
That's awesome.
How hard is it to be original nowadays? There's so much music out there. So many people can create stuff, even just on their computers. How hard is it to be original and really stand out?
Man, that's where you are, and where you at. You know what I'm saying? Where your genius level is at when it comes to creativity. A lot of people nowadays, there's a formula. Just add water, just do this, do that, and you're going to sound like everybody else. I get that. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's kind of chasing this bag, whatever. But creativity, man, that's like being original. It's only one you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you got to be able to kind of like get to the point where you can express that through your music if you're a producer. You got to, obviously, when you first start producing, you're going to be inspired by different production, by different artists, and you're going to sort of emulate them for a minute until you get your footing, until you know how to, bring yourself out into your music. But to like, just damn near clone yourself after somebody, I wouldn't, recommend that. I would say everybody's original within themselves, and they need to, just tap into that, and you just do that by constantly, developing your craft. You know what I mean?
I want to go back to something that you said earlier when you said, there was no industry here basically to help cultivate what you and the Bizzie Boyz were doing in Greensboro in '86. But it kind of struck me that, like, I'm 35. I was born in '86. Dennis 35. He was born in '86. And this isn't to try to make you feel old or anything like that. Like, it's just like, but like, for like, it's just mad. It's like respect, because it's like, if you think about it, it was such a new form at the time of expression and creation. And also in Greensboro, right? Mm-hmm. You weren't in New York, you weren't in LA or Atlanta, where there's these different connections, or maybe your cousin is the A&R of someplace or whatever, and they could just kind of walk you into the door. It really came off of your hard work and the grind that you guys put in. When you look back over time, how fulfilling is it to think about that you've been able to make a living from this, and in so many different ways, from the performer to the producer to the teacher to everything in between to the A&R? How fulfilling is that you've been able to kind of navigate that for so long?
Man, it's it's definitely a blessing, man, and I wake up grateful and thankful every day. I promise you that. And shoot, I'm still learning. I just love the process of learning, and just elevating. You know, I don't necessarily have to be behind the mic. I don't necessarily have to be behind the drum machine. You know what I'm saying? There's so many different lanes to this music thing, man. If you're creative, you can just come up with so many cool avenues for yourself. And I'm just blessed and thankful that I'm still in it, man. I'm still relevant, you know, in what I'm doing.
Absolutely.
Who else from North Carolina that you've seen come after you that you either want to work with or have you enjoyed their work? Who else from North Carolina, the hip hop world, have you enjoyed?
Ah, man, you know, obviously J. Cole, man, he's like right up my lane, you know, musically. I know if I was to ever connect with Cole, we'll probably make some cool stuff, man.
Yeah, that needs to happen. Like, I feel like he needs to have just one album where it's like you and Ninth and you know, a few other guys like that. Like, I think that'll just be just a ridiculous album.
That'll be a dope look for NC within a whole, you know what I'm saying? And bringing all these different, from Fayetteville to Greensboro to, you know, everybody. Where the baby at? Charlotte, you know what I'm saying? We need to bring all that stuff together. That'll be dope, because North Carolina was once known as a state that, you know, nobody looked out, everybody, you know, crab in a barrel type of mentality, yada, yada. But now, you know, it's wide open, you know, we doing our thing out here. You know what I mean?
I want to ask you about the influence that you've had too, because, you know, going back to I one of the things I like about Lil Brother is I feel like is they teach you while you're listening to them. Mm-hmm. And so I remember just on that album that came out a couple years ago, and hearing Phonte, who's also from Greensboro, you know, spit his rhyme about, you know, before the South was bumping Master P. You know, basically he was listening to Bizzie Boyz, Mix Master D and all that. Like, that was his, I can't remember exactly how the rhyme went, but that's what made me want to go back and be like, okay, let me listen to some of these joints. Since I was a little too young for some of that, but you know, that was a cool shout out to you guys and what you guys were doing. But you know, do you hear like your influence when you listen to guys like them, you listen to Ninth, you listen to other people from North Carolina, and how does that make you feel?
Makes me feel good, man. You know, we passed the torch and they keeping it lit. You know, we came from that hip hop, you know, that real, that, you know, that and Ninth is and his whole crew is doing their thing with it. And definitely Phonte and them, they doing their thing with it. North Carolina, man, that's just, we love that type of hip hop, man. You know, so basically, man, you know, Ninth and them, they just keeping the torch lit, man. You know, we love that type of hip hop. And, you know, North Carolina, we do it good. You know what I mean? I mean, think about it. We got, come on, cats from North Carolina has done the most prolific records for other cats from different places, from New York to LA to whatever. You feel me? We done touched it. We done touched our music, our soul, our vibe has made a lot of people, we put them in position.
Yeah, I didn't realize like guys like George Clinton and Bootsy Collins like had like North Carolina ties as well. I think Bootsy is from North Carolina, and then I think George Clinton was like born here or something like that. Like my barber one time was just like, if you think about it, you can almost say that sound from the 70s that helped build up the sound that come from the West Coast is really a North Carolina sound. And it never like hit me like that before. And it just was like, wow, that's crazy. Like, is that something that you thought of or you talk to people about just to kind of get them to understand what North Carolina has done to help other folks? Yeah,
man, come on. You know, we're strong. Look, Reasonable Doubt. That's a North Carolina sound. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's I mean, I was inspired by Mark Spark and Rhythm Fanatic. You know what I'm saying? Those are North Carolina dudes. Those are dudes that taught me how to make beats. So I just used their influences and put it in Reasonable Doubt. You know, North Carolina were musical. You know what I'm saying? I mean, around that time, there was Primo, there was Lord Finesse, you know, a couple of people. But, you know, they always had their certain style, their certain sound. Primo was always hardcore with the drums, the scratching, the hooks. And it was dope. You feel me? But me coming from down south, you know, I'm coming from church. I'm coming from, you know, cats that can play keys. I'm coming from hearing music. You know what I'm saying? Like composition. So I kind of like incorporated that. Like if you listen to a Phil in it or to a Lucchini or a Dead Prez, everything is always musical, melodic. You feel me? But the drums is there. And that's like a North Carolina type of signature. Listen to Knife. You feel me? He got the hard drums, but it's still kind of musical. You know, it still has emotion. That's what I'm trying to say. You know what I mean?
I never even thought about it like that for Lucchini because that was like one of my favorite songs growing up. But yeah, like you're absolutely right. That's I'm starting to put some stuff together now too. Just even talking to you. And then I just also want to ask about this. Like, what high school did you go to, and what influences were there?
Grimsley.
You're a Grimsley guy. Okay, so I was wondering if you were a Dudley dude because I know Dudley always had the band, and so I know a lot of musical folks come out of Dudley as well.
Yeah.
Did you play in the band at Grimsley?
Mm-mm. Did not.
What?
Did not.
That's a missed opportunity for Grimsley right there.
Damn, I was a break dancer.
Oh, really?
Okay. I was rocking.
You still have the moves?
Oh yeah, all day.
This I have to see.
That's how I started. I started breakdancing. That was my introduction to hip hop, breakdancing. Before the rapping, before the producing, I was a breakdancer. I was a dancer.
I mean, can we get a little move right now? Maybe a little pop or something?
That ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. That's how I got in.
Oh man, well, we appreciate you for coming on and just kind of talking about some of the history that's there, and being somebody who's from Greensboro, definitely proud of the things that you've done for the city and also done for hip hop. So we appreciate your time for coming on.
It's all love, man. I'm from the borough. I love the borough, man. Can't wait to get back.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
We want to thank Mr. Ski Beatz for coming on to the show. This was just a wonderful, it was a history lesson.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things for you to go back to listen to. Bizzie Boyz. Just going back to listen to Reasonable Doubt. Go back to listen to Camp Low. Go find Hot Right. This is for my folks. It's been waiting. Like this, there's a lot of great stuff that came from the state of North Carolina, man. And Ski Beatz was definitely a part of it.
I think that's actually the fun thing about it is that we've talked about how I kind of represent the transplants on this podcast, on this show. I represent the people that come here and are still learning about the state of North Carolina and its influences that we have, and we've fallen in love with this state. The fact that I've been able to go back and listen to some older stuff in terms of North Carolina hip hop artists, some older Little Brother albums, whether it's the Minstrel Show, even going back and listen to Foreign Exchange and just listen to all these different artists that may have been come out 15, 20 years ago, or even go back and listen to Bizzie Boyz even more now, stuff that came out 30 years ago. But to me, it's new and it's fresh. It's different. And that's fun going back and discovering all this different music. And it's like, wow, okay, I can hear this beat and go, wait, that kind of sounds like something I heard that came out 10 years ago. You hear the influences. Now you start working your way back, and then you kind of start, coming back to where we are now. It's so fun for me as someone who loves and enjoys music, just diving into those things and really, really discovering those and where they're out there and just being able to find it. It really is a fun deep dive. And like you said, it's really a history lesson in North Carolina in terms of hip hop. But I encourage anyone out there who just enjoys just good music, go back and listen to not only the Bizzie Boyz stuff, but go back 15 years ago. Listen to the Minstrel Show. Go back even before that with Foreign Exchange back in 2004 with Phonte, who's part of Little Brother. I go back and listen to that song. There's songs I'm playing on repeats, for Foreign Exchange. That was from 2004. But to me, it's brand new. It's so enjoyable and so satisfying being able to discover those things.
And I'm going to be real, man. Some of it's new for me too. Like Lucchini is a song where, growing up, I have an aunt who actually went to school with high school with one of the guys that's in Camp Low from the song Lucchini. And I remember her telling me about, this guy used to always be rapping in high school. So when the song came out, I listened to Camp Low. Camp Low is like, a group that I listen to. And I remember hearing about the Jay-Z thing, and I remember hearing about the Hot Right and Now City thing. And I bought those albums and things like that. But when we were preparing for this interview, when we were setting up this interview just a few weeks ago, I dug deeper. And I'm going to be real. That's when I first heard Bizzie Boyz songs. Yeah. And I was like, wow. And it really made
you played it on our Saturday show recently.
Yeah. And it really made me have that connection because I'd always heard of the Bizzie Boyz, but I never made the connection that they're from Greensboro and that Ski Beatz was from there. It was just a group that people talked about. But I never thought, they're from Greensboro. You know what I'm saying? And so now it's like, okay, I'm learning something, and this show is not only just for entertainment, it's also for education.
Yeah.
And hopefully people who listen can learn a little something as well. And then just seeing all the connections and being somebody from Greensboro, he mentioned a lot of different names. He mentioned a guy named King. He mentioned a guy named Dana Lucci, who passed away, I think, last year or the year before last. He mentioned Fanatic. He mentioned a guy named Fly Eli. I know all those guys from separate ways.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Dana Lucci had artists he was working with. When I first did my first radio show at WUAG, I had a show called Carolina Crunk where I was playing only North Carolina hip hop and R&B. Mm-hmm. Dana Lucci helped cultivate that group of artists, some of those groups of artists. Shout outs to my man Selensky, who's a really good rapper who should have made it a long time ago. But, so I knew him from that. I knew King that he mentioned. Fly Eli. Remember I was telling you about listening to Anthony Hamilton. Fly Eli, Eli Davis. I was actually celebrating my 18th birthday at Kabuto off of Wendover Avenue in Greensboro. It was my birthday. Eli was sitting at my table and introduced himself to me and said, "Hey, my name is Eli. I manage this artist. Here's a CD." It was Anthony Hamilton. Really? And I was like, "Oh, wow. Okay, cool." He gave me his card and everything, and I went and listened, and that's how I got introduced to Anthony Hamilton, because this is as he was coming out. And then as I got into radio and things like that, I reached back out. I was like, "Hey, you remember you gave this to me for my birthday. I also work in radio now. Would love to interview you." And, he's got his family is deep into music. And to know that was the Bizzie Boyz, like all those guys, and I met them all different. It's just amazing to see all the connections kind of come together. And so not only you learning as a transplant, I'm learning as somebody who's from Greensboro.
And Chris and I will encourage everyone out there listening. Like, it's easy to access this stuff nowadays with Spotify and Apple Music and everything. It's so easy to access it, which is great. Whereas back in the day, you had to get someone give you a CD or right. cassette or whatever it was right. just to hear these things, or maybe you caught it on the radio at the right time. Right. So nowadays it's easy to access. So guess what, people? You can go and listen to all this stuff while you're cooking dinner, doing chores, throw this stuff in your headphones and enjoy it. And really, again, not only just discover, but if maybe you listened to this in the past, rediscover it. Go and enjoy this stuff. It really is. As music fans like you and I, it's so enjoyable to be able to rediscover and just find these things once again, and lack of a better term, make what was old new again.
And this is what's so fulfilling about this, being able to not only just talk to folks who are just legends in what they do, who also have some sort of North Carolina tie, but then also just to learn just new things and and just everything. So it really helps out with understanding context with everything. And and then it really does make you proud to be from here. I don't know about you, but maybe it makes you proud to be in a place like this. But
100%.
And so it's just great. It's a great thing. Want to thank Ski Beatz for sure. And I got to say a big thank you to my guy Kevin Scales, Kevin Chaos, though that's what he was known for on the radio. Kevin Chaos for hooking this up. A quick story about Kevin Chaos. Kevin Chaos went to high school with my cousins. And I remember when I was my older cousins at Dudley High School. And I remember them talking about, I go to school with Kevin Chaos. He's, he was at the time at Power 97, which was a hip hop station, or I would say the urban station in Greensboro. And then 102 Jams came along. He went over to 102 Jams. And I just always remembered hearing the name Kevin Chaos, the youngest in charge and all that. And it was just kind of cool to eventually start working at 102 Jams. And this guy that I was listening to and that my cousins always talked about seeing in high school is now like one of my friends. And, I showed you pictures before of me going to this NXT show in Charlotte. I think we ended up being at the same show.
Yeah, the same show.
That's who I went with. It was Kevin. Yeah. My last WWE event before the pandemic, SmackDown in Greensboro in 2020, January, went with Kevin. So he's one of my good friends, and Ski is one of his good friends. And Kevin makes amazing beats himself. So that's the connection. I couldn't do this without giving a great shout out to Kevin for hooking us up with this.
Chris, we got to set this up or we got to put this out into the ethers for everyone out there. We need Ninth Wonder, Ski Beatz, Crisis to all produce an album with Phonte, with Big Pooh, with J. Cole, with Rhapsody, Dupree, and Petey Pablo. Like, make this like the North Carolina just album for life. Could you imagine? Could you imagine? Like, these are some of the biggest names in the world of hip hop, are like all from right here. Oh, we can throw in Michaela Boykin. We can also put her in there too. Like,
and a rapper coming up that Big Pooh actually manages, Loot from Charlotte.
He's get Tuesday in there too. Like,
so this is what we need to do.
Yep.
When this episode comes out, when it drops, we just need to just get on Twitter.
Yep.
And at everybody.
Yep.
And like, look. Make this happen.
Make it happen.
Like, seriously, make it happen.
Yes.
Like, you guys can figure out how to make the money and all that work. You've all made your money, so but let's figure out how to make this happen, because we definitely need a North Carolina All-Stars. We need that. We need that. Yeah.
Need
amazing.
It now. But you know what? While you're doing the deep dive, everyone out there, when you're doing the deep dive and all this music, stop by Papa Murphy's, get a large pizza on Tuesdays, only $10.99. Give them a follow at Papa Murphy's on Twitter and Instagram. Papa Murphy's, change the way you pizza.
It's a great hip hop pizza too. You know what I'm saying? You could just kind of pump in, the Bizzie Boyz while you're on your way to Papa Murphy's. Come out, get your pizza, put in Reasonable Doubt. You know what I'm saying? And then listen to a little Ninth Wonder and listen to a little dinner party and little brother and all that. Oh, it's a good time. Trust me.
It's a good time.
Make sure you give us a follow at Chris Lee TV.
At the Fam Rookie, follow us at Culture State Pod.
Yep. And please, 5 stars. Because, look, we're just celebrating North Carolina. You know what I'm saying? Thank you guys for listening. I'm Chris Lee. Dennis Cox. We out.
The Culture State Podcast, part of the Capital Broadcasting Podcast Network, with new shows coming out every Wednesday. Download and subscribe from wherever you get your podcasts, including the WREL Sports Fan app.